You ever stop to think about how many people are underestimated every single day, just for seeming too simple? It's shocking how we still live in a world where someone's worth is measured by the clothes they wear, as if dignity had a designer label. This is one of those stories that provoke, disturb, and above all, teach. Because some people only show respect once they find out who you really are, and by then, my friend, it's already too late. Veronica just wanted a snack and a little peace. But when she walked into that diner, she was treated like she was invisible, ridiculed, and even accused of not having any money. What nobody knew was that this humble-looking woman was none other than one of the people who helped found the place. And when the truth came out, well, let's just say the shame switched sides. This story will challenge the way you see others, and maybe even make you rethink a few of your own attitudes. If you believe that respect should never depend on appearance, stick around. Because what happened at Carter's Diner isn't just a movie-worthy plot twist. It's a slap in the face to anyone who still hasn't learned that behind every person, there's a story. And some, like Veronica's, have the power to transform everything around them. Veronica could have shown up in high heels, a luxury car, with her name announced at the door. But she made a rare decision, to experience her own investment like any other customer. She wore simple clothes, tied her hair back in a modest bun, and walked into Carter's Diner as if she were just there for an ordinary cup of coffee. That simple choice says a lot. It shows how true stories of greatness don't need a spotlight. They just happen, unannounced, without vanity, but full of purpose. Very few people understand the power of watching without being noticed. Veronica knew exactly what she was doing. Her goal was to see firsthand how the place was being run, not based on spreadsheets, but by feeling the service in her own skin. Many business owners could learn from that approach. Sometimes, you understand more about your business by sitting as a customer than by staring at performance charts. And it's from these kinds of stories, born from real contact, that the deepest truths are revealed, ones no report can ever show. And that's when the magic begins, when someone, without needing to prove anything, chooses anonymity to see beyond appearances. That's how Veronica, with the wisdom of someone who's seen the world turn more than once, started noticing things in that restaurant no one else saw. And oh, if only she knew the reception that awaited her. But that's exactly where many stories come to life, when reality turns out to be very different from expectations. Which brings us to the next chapter of this journey. The scene was uncomfortable from the start. Veronica walked in and was met with that kind of silent indifference that hurts the most. The hostess pretended not to see her, the kind of contempt that needs no words. And the waiters? They walked by as if she were part of the furniture. Sadly, these stories are common in places where looks are worth more than presence. Who hasn't been judged from head to toe before even opening their mouth? When service finally came, it was cold as ice. A menu tossed onto the table, a curt question, not a single smile. It's fascinating how behavior shifts when they think you're a nobody. That says more about the character of the one serving than the one being served. In many places, the uniform of humility, simple clothes, tied hair, modest posture, is mistaken for lack of worth. And it's precisely these stories of disregard that need to be told, to open the eyes of those still trapped in shallow judgments. What's most striking is how the energy of a place shows in those little details. While Veronica was ignored, other customers were met with smiles, jokes, and fake friendliness. The contrast in treatment was glaring. Here's a practical tip. Next time you go somewhere, watch how they treat those who have nothing to offer. That's where the truth of a business lies. In these quiet stories, we often find the deepest lessons in humanity. And behind the counter, another truth was about to surface. As she waited for her order, Veronica had the misfortune, or perhaps the blessing, of hearing what most customers never do. Behind the counter, two employees whispered like they were on some childish recess. They laughed, mocked her appearance, and one of them, a guy named Jordan, even said she probably couldn't afford to pay. That kind of comment, besides being cruel, reveals a toxic mindset that still lingers in many workplaces. And it's from these stories that the greatest lessons about respect emerge. Worse than the mockery itself was the certainty in their voices, as if judging someone by their appearance was completely justified. Just think, how many opportunities are lost because someone doesn't look like a good customer? Or worse, how many stories of resilience, wisdom, and worth are ignored purely out of prejudice. People who act like this miss the chance to grow from what truly matters, the diversity of experiences each person carries. And here's a key point. Those behind the scenes also shape a business's reputation. What's set out of the customer's earshot eventually leaks through behavior. And it was in those cruel laughs that the true culture of the place was revealed. Veronica listened in silence. But her silence wasn't passive. It was the prelude to something bigger. Because many stories start just like this. Ignored, doubted, until the world finds out who they really are. While Veronica was being humiliated, unaware that sharp eyes were watching, a quiet presence made all the difference. Michael's daughter, sitting at a nearby table, recognized the old family friend the moment she walked in. But instead of stepping in right away, she did what many don't. She observed, took mental notes, and waited for the right moment. Some stories need to play out to the end before they're interrupted. Only then do they reveal what they're meant to teach. With her phone in hand, she recorded everything. The indifference, the whispers, the judgmental looks. And as hard as it was to witness that happening to someone so close, she knew exposing the truth without proof wasn't enough. It had to be documented. Many underestimate the power of active listening and strategic patience. In any environment, business, family, or social, knowing when to act and when to observe is a skill few master. But it's these silent stories that often lead to the biggest turnarounds. Ironic part? While the staff mocked her without knowing who they were insulting, justice was brewing just a table away. Sometimes, the one with the power to change everything is closer than you think, just waiting for the right time to play their hand. This moment reminds us of something powerful. Never underestimate the quiet ones. Never ignore the observers. Because in real-life stories, the heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they just hold a phone. The tension in the room skyrocketed when Veronica tried to pay the bill. The waiter, with a tone dripping with disdain, implied she was trying to leave without paying. And at that very moment, like something out of a movie, Michael Carter walked into the restaurant. Silence dropped like a heavy curtain. He took one look and instantly understood what was going on. Some stories don't need many words to become unforgettable. Michael, visibly angry, demanded an explanation. And when the staff realized who he was, the smirks vanished from their faces. He then spoke loud and clear, revealing Veronica's true identity, one of Carter's diner's biggest supporters and a close family friend. The shock was immediate. Everyone in the room felt the wave of collective embarrassment. It was the kind of twist you believe only because you witnessed it. These stories show how dangerous it is to judge someone by appearances alone. But Michael wasn't just an angry owner. He was a man of principle. In that moment, he gave a public lesson in respect and justice. And the most surprising part? None of those who mocked Veronica could have imagined they were insulting the very woman without whom the restaurant might not even exist. That's when the masks fall, and true stories take the stage. But what he did next, no one could have seen coming. Michael didn't waste time. He asked for the restaurant cameras to be pulled up immediately. And there it was, clear as day. The whispers, the jokes, the cold service, the cruel sarcasm. As if that weren't enough, his daughter showed the cell phone footage, capturing every detail. The truth could no longer be hidden. And some stories only gain power when the facts speak for themselves. No room for rehearsed excuses. In front of everyone, Michael did what many leaders avoid. He addressed the problem head-on and in public. The employees involved were suspended immediately. No beating around the bush. No, we'll talk later. It was time to show that the company's culture did not tolerate that kind of behavior. The applause from the customers wasn't just support, it was relief. The kind that says, finally, someone did the right thing. And it's in these stories of courage that true examples are born. The impact was immediate. The fake smiles disappeared, replaced by tense silence. Eyes darted away, and even those not directly involved began to rethink their behavior. Because when a leader leads by example, they don't just correct, they transform. And it's in that kind of leadership that many stories of change begin. But what no one expected was what Michael would do next. Because justice alone isn't enough when the goal is to rebuild something bigger. After the shock came the gesture that separates ordinary leaders from true changemakers. Michael apologized, not just privately, but publicly, with humility and strength. He acknowledged the team's mistake, but also took responsibility as the owner. And more than asking for forgiveness, he offered meaningful repair. He invited Veronica to become Carter's Diner's customer experience consultant. Some stories don't heal with words, they need bold actions. This decision, symbolic and strategic, made all the difference. Who better to teach about respect than someone who felt the sting of indifference firsthand? Michael didn't just want to punish, he wanted to change the restaurant's culture. He restructured training, implemented a clear dignity-first policy, and made one thing clear. Every customer would be treated with humanity. And it's through these stories of rebuilding that businesses become role models, not just in profit, but in values. The change was swift and deep. Longtime employees began to reassess their attitudes, and new hires arrived with a different mindset. Veronica, with her calm presence and sharp eye, helped guide this new era, transforming the atmosphere without raising her voice. She became a symbol of change, and that inspired more than just the staff. It inspired the whole community. But what happened to Carter's Diner after that? Well, that's where this story gets even stronger. What started as an uncomfortable situation became a movement of transformation that echoed far beyond the restaurant's walls. The story of the ignored lady who turned out to be the owner's friend and investor spread like wildfire. Local papers reported it, social media shared it, and gradually, Carter's Diner became an example. Not for messing up, but for how it owned its mistake and acted with dignity. In times when reputation is everything, that made all the difference. Now a consultant, Veronica started participating in community events, sharing her experience with lightness, humor, and a touch of wisdom. She spoke about empathy, the power of listening before judging, and how one humble gesture can change the course of many stories. She wasn't seeking revenge, she wanted transformation. And that's what won hearts. Her presence became a kind of moral compass for the team, who now acted with more care, more listening, more authenticity. Today, Carter's Diner isn't just a diner anymore. It's a symbol, a place people visit not just for the food, but for the feeling of being seen, where appearance no longer outweighs attitude, and where every customer is treated as part of a bigger story. Because when respect is on the menu, the whole experience changes flavor. And who would have thought all this began with a simple gesture from someone who just wanted a coffee? No spotlight, no privilege, just purpose. And now I ask you, how many times have you judged someone just by what you saw on the outside? How many amazing stories might you have ignored, just because they didn't look important at first glance? Veronica's case serves as a powerful reminder. Respect isn't negotiable, it's something you practice. Always. With everyone. And if you were in those employees' shoes, what would your attitude have been? It's time to pause, take a deep breath, and look around with more empathy. The world already has enough judgment. What it needs is more people willing to see beyond appearances. So how about being part of that change? How about being the example, even when no one's watching? If this story moved you in any way, comment below what you would have done differently. And don't forget, this channel is for those who truly want to grow. So subscribe, hit the bell, and stick with us on this journey of learning, awareness, and transformation. Because in the end, the stories that teach us the most are the ones no one was really paying attention to.